Welcome back to Enjoying Retirement. Today, let's go to Oslo, Norway. Boy, what a beautiful city. In fact, it's one of my favorites. But as you look at Oslo, hey, you might have great dreams what you're going to do there, but when you get there, you look and you say, oh man, where should I stay? That is a big area, and that's one of my concerns everywhere I go, trying to figure out where to stay so I can do the most by walking and not going too far. Well, that area in red, that's a central area. That is where I recommend you go, and that's where I'm going to show you the 6 things that we did all within walking distance in that area. And we stayed at Hotel Savoy Clarion Collection right at the top. Item number 1, the Royal Palace. Boy, what a beautiful place. That statue out front, that's King Charles XIV. He was the king of Sweden and Norway from 1818 to 1844. On the left side is the Queen's Garden. What a beautiful garden this is. Flowers out front, statuary, lots of trees, lots of grass, lots of open land. Just a very pretty place. It was created in 1751 and incorporated into the palace in 1840. And it's open to visitors every day, May through September. The palace itself began construction in 1824 and became the official residence in 1849 of King Oscar. The present King and Queen of Norway reside there, King Harald V and Queen Sonja. Make sure you get there 1:30 every day, rain or shine. They do a changing of the guard. If you go, when you have the statue at your back and you're facing the palace, the changing the guard is going to take place on the right side. So get to the very far right side to have your best view. Now, I know my wife was very interested in watching this. There was a good crowd formed up to see it. Having spent 4 years at West Point marching every other day or so, I don't know. Didn't do all that much for me because I just feel sorry for these guys. But what an honor it must be, being part of the Royal Guard and having this as one of your ceremonial duties. So let's watch for a while. Very nice to see. And these guys are going to walk off, and they are the new guard, and they are going to take their place at the front and the back as the old guys leave and head to get a much needed rest. Well, there you go. You can also tour the inside of the palace during the summertime. Make sure you get your tickets online beforehand because there will be a crowd. All right, that's the palace. That is very close to the hotel we stayed at and kind of right in the center of the central district. Now we're going to head down to the seaport, and that is where many of the next items are. Well, if you're any fan of museums as we are, boy, Oslo is a place for you. What a great collection. I recommend you get down there, take the ferry. It's only about $7 round trip. That'll take you out to what I call Museum Island. Not really an island, it's a peninsula, but the best way to get there is the ferry. It's about a 10-minute ride to stop 1, another 5 minutes to stop 2. And first place we're going to go look at the Kon-Tiki Museum. You might have seen my other video on it, but that was a Norwegian expedition led by Thor Heyerdahl, testing his theory that perhaps Polynesia was settled from South America rather than from Asia. And the original Kon-Tiki is on full display there. This is a fantastic museum. If you've read the book, seen the movie, it all comes to life here. And the museum does an excellent job presenting everything in English as well as Norwegian. For me, it was a must-stop, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. If you want to know more about it, please check out my video on the Kon-Tiki Museum. They also have Ra 2, which was a boat that they subsequently built to prove the theory that it was possible to travel from Africa to America as well using technology that was available in ancient times, reed boats. In addition to the Kon-Tiki Museum, they have the Norwegian Folk Museum dedicated to Norwegian life from the 1500s to the present, a maritime museum, and the Viking Ship Museum, but unfortunately it is closed till 2027. But they do have the Fram Museum. I'd never heard of the Fram before I got there, but you walk in and you see a very big, sturdy ship. This is the Fram. It gained fame in 1893 when it was purpose-built to mount a Norwegian expedition attempting to get to the North Pole. And this is a fascinating story. They built this ship to withstand the pressures of being locked into the Arctic ice. So the ship's hull is 24 inches at the minimum and 48 inches thick at the bow. It's a three-masted schooner, 128 feet by 36 feet. And what they discovered was, thanks to a wreckage of an American vessel, the theory that the ice moved across the North Pole as it was frozen, and it might take a couple years to do that, but they would do that. So they mounted this expedition, began in 1893, and in October of that year, it hit its first ice and got locked in. By March of 95, the leader of the expedition, he decided that, you know what, they may not hit the North Pole going that way, so he and a partner left out on skis. And they were expecting it to take about 50 days to cover the 356 nautical miles left to get to the North Pole. But on April 7th, they were blocked by ice blocks and decided to retreat. It took them over a year to get back to people. In the meantime, the Fram was locked in ice all that time. So 17th of June, 1896, the two folks who took off, they hit people, and by August the Fram had broken free and was returning back to Norway. There is the electrical system. It was wind generated, but it kept the lights on during the long polar winters. So here we are. They have a fantastic display of what life was like. There are the sleds, poles, tents, everything that they would need to mount a expedition that they thought they were going to be on. There's the carpenter's shop. There was a Fram 2 expedition as well that did mapping around Greenland, I believe. They also have another ship there that continued polar exploration. But at some point you reach enough and you have knowledge overload. And unfortunately, that's where I was. I recommend spending a couple days on Museum Island. All right, once you're back at the Oslo dock, if you walk to the south and east a little ways, you can see the Akershuss Fortress. This is a fascinating medieval fortress. It began in 1299, and it withstood several sieges over the next 300 years or so, mostly by Sweden. King Charles V had the castle modernized in the 1600s, and at that point it also became the royal residence. Inside there are several fascinating museums. Well, as you can see, the weather goes from sunny to rainy to cloudy and back again throughout the day. So always be prepared. Always have your rain jacket and a hat or an umbrella with you whenever you're visiting. Obviously, this stood at the headlands of the seaway leading into Oslo, and it was the perfect location to protect the city. And it was never successfully overtaken by siege until World War II, when it was surrendered to the Germans. We didn't have as much time as I would have liked here, so we didn't get to go through any of the museums, but I recommend spending a couple hours here. You can look at the architecture, you can see the rock, some brickwork on top, so you can see during the various phases of the modernization. Museums there on the right. All right, now we're going to go back and go to the other side, which is the Aker Port, Brygge I believe is how it's pronounced. And if you go right back up the street right there, the palace is on the left, and our hotel was at the end of that. At the other end is the Nobel Peace Prize building. And there is the museum right there, right along. So this area was a shipyard from about 1854 to 1982. After that, took some years, and then they developed it into a shopping, dining, and entertainment area. And it is definitely well worth visiting. Although I'm not quite sure I recommend jumping in the water. Though it was midsummer, it wasn't warm enough for me to do that. Continuing along, it is still a boat harbor for many residents and their boats, and it does have fantastic restaurants and some artwork, like this 27-foot statue of an astronaut. But for me, I prefer this lobster playground. Fantastic restaurants, fun place to walk through, just a beautiful area. And like many other European cities, it has a fantastic tram system. Learn how to use it, and you don't need a car. All right, so now we're going to go on an Oslo Fjord cruise. This is about a 2-hour cruise on a older wooden boat. Started out life as a sailing ship, one of the last cargo sailing ships that was purpose built, but hey, it's been modernized with an engine. But it is fun to go on. But we'll talk about whether you should or not in a little bit. In the meantime, let's just take a look at the Akershuss Fortress from the water side. Not something you would want to be facing with their cannons. So on this cruise, you're going to go back into the other side of the harbor, various other museums, and then you're going to head out into the fjord itself. And along the way, you're going to see many islands and some fascinating structures. There you can get a feeling for what the boat itself is like. At the back end, you can get hot chocolate, coffee. Oh, this was interesting. Apparently, this is kind of a national pastime in Norway. Have little cottages, little cabins right on the beach. Well, on the rocky shore anyway. But they were beautiful to look at. Now I'm going to head down underneath just because I love looking at good craftsmanship and how things are built, even boats. Boy, did they build them sturdy. You can see the upper deck has been newly refurbished, but those are the original beams in the hull. And while it was an enjoyable cruise, given the time we had there, I'm not sure that was the best use of our 2 hours that particular day. We booked it. We had preconceptions of what a fjord looks like. Hey, steep-walled valley, waterfalls, glacier carved. Well, this isn't it. But if you just want a harbor tour, go for it. But next time we're going to skip that, spend a little bit more time in one of the many museums there. Now let's go back, also from our hotel, easy walk over to the main shopping district. This is on a weekend. I think they always have these particular streets closed down, but this is when the locals and tourists really come out, and you have a wonderful walking experience. We're going to walk down here, but our main goal is to get over and check out the cathedral. It's a short walk to the cathedral, but before you go in, make sure you stop, because just outside is a tribute consisting of 1,000 iron roses dedicated to the memory of 77 people that were killed in a right-wing attack in 2011. Going inside the cathedral, we love going in them. Cathedrals are a wonderful presence, architecture as well as art for us. This was built in the 1600s and has been the official cathedral of Oslo ever since. And it is beautiful inside. The ceiling is just fantastic. Well, that's going to wrap up our trip to Oslo. Like I said at the beginning, sometimes it's hard to know where to stay when you go to a new city. There's just so much to see and you're not really sure where things are. Well, yeah, I think if you stay anywhere within the Oslo city central, you're within half-mile walking distance of everything you just saw us give. And there's obviously other things you can get to, but the tram system there is so wonderful you should have no problem getting there from anywhere in the central. Well, I hope this helped you. Hope you got something out of it. Thanks for watching. As always, I am enjoying retirement.